Welcome, I'm Steve Lentini, and I'm the host for the podcast Different Thinking for Different Times. This podcast is about challenging one's thinking. It's thought leadership, it's mindset change, it's limitless thinking, and in particular, it's challenging assumptions. Assumptions many, many years ago were that the earth was flat. And before that, it was that the sun rotated around the earth, and before that the earth was the center of the universe. Now, I understand that limited thinking at the time. I'm not sure that it was egoic, although you could see where it was based on, that we were the center of the universe, that the sun rotated around the earth. The earth was flat was based on fear. But this podcast is about challenging some of those assumptions today, because from somewhere, this is my theory, we all see the horizon is flat. We continue to fear to step into certain things, and it's evidenced today by all the groups of different people making each other wrong and railing against behaviors that are, quite frankly, where the earth is flat in your mind. So let me give you some examples. Religion likes to say that unless you do a certain thing a certain way, you're going to go to hell. That's not what I experienced in my near-death experience, by the way. It was completely opposite. It busted my assumption. In fact, it was beyond all human comprehension. Because only the good I had done in my life was mentioned, which, by the way, made sense to me when I got back in my body. I couldn't connect the events together when I was one with the infinite, one with everything and nothing. So that's part of the thought assumption. I'm sorry, my cat is wandering around here and bumping the camera. Okay, so challenging assumptions didn't end with the earth was flat or some of the other things that we assumed thousands of years ago. And there's things we assumed hundreds of years ago and even today that really are bizarre. First of all, we tend to listen to our brain. We tend to believe our mind, when really our job is to upset the brain, to begin to challenge it and notice where you have all kinds of judgments, where you snap to a reaction and make those around you wrong. And maybe you only associate with people who help you be right, that agree with you. Michael Dell says that if you're the smartest person in the room, you need a new room, or perhaps new people to surround yourself with, people that challenge you. And of course, we see many examples of that today, where people don't want to do that. They would prefer to all sit around making the other side wrong. I'm not going to mention a side because it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. I laugh at all sides, right? I wrote the book 5 years ago, You Might Be Full of Shit If. And I list the different areas where we're all full of shit, including me. And that's the thing that we have to get over. John Maxwell likes to say we have to get over ourselves in life. And it's not happening to any large degree, if you think about that. It's happening on a very small scale. I would say 98% of people believe they're thinking. And that goes for most of their life. That's okay. It's okay. I'm not going to make it wrong. I'm just suggesting that if you're not happy where you are in life, it has to do first and foremost with your own limited thinking. You're not engaged in limitless thinking. You have small-minded thinking. And so religion is one area. If you take the major religions, they're all rooted in Abraham, the Abraham principles. So that's the Jewish faith, the Christian faith, the Muhammad, the Muslim faith, and the Vedic traditions, all rooted in the same tree, and yet continue to make each other wrong in this way, suggesting only their way is right. Now, certainly there have been amazing prophets and messengers, if you think of Christ, suggesting everything worked together for good for those that believed in the Father. And Muhammad said, what reaches you was never meant to miss you, and what misses you was never meant to reach you. And that's about the same thing, that everything works together for good, that life is for us. I mean, for example, up until the age of 50, I pretty much was fighting life. I thought in a good way I wanted to be the #1 producer for a franchise that I own. I wanted it all to be so large in my mind. And that was not my life's purpose. And somewhere deep inside, I knew that it wasn't right. I knew that that particular franchise wasn't right for me, that it was not my work. And it took life hitting me with a 2x4 on November 13th, 2002. One second I was fine. The next second I needed an ambulance. And little did I know I would flatline 5 days later with 2 friends at the end of my bed, and then be in the hospital a total of 100 days, 60 days straight, and 40 out of the next 60, and 6 months out of work. And that was the most amazing gift of my life, besides my children being born and being there for it, and their mother, Loretta, at the time, going through everything she went through to deliver the children, and many other miracles, not as, albeit as great as witnessing childbirth and then my near-death experience, where I saw what awaits us. And if we all had a peek, we wouldn't be so petty. Not before this podcast ends. I wish you all a long life. But if I knew for sure you'd all come back like I did and get a second chance or a third chance, who knows how many, I'd wish you have that experience. Because you'd be amazed at how small-minded we are, which led to my work, teaching people about what I call the acorn brain. Here, let me show you that's my logo, the acorn brain, small-minded thinking. It represents the amygdala in the center of our brain, which is based on fear and limits. And most of us still believe that, and I still do. I have to work at it every day to reprogram my mind, and I found I can jump realities by changing my mind and questioning my mind. And when you question your mind, you see new options appear, limitless possibilities. It's your mind. Fascinating. Think about this, if it's true. How passionate do you get when you believe you're right? And many people do, especially in religion, then politics, and many other areas. At work, we want to be right and make the boss wrong. And so that's what we're missing, that every time we want to be right, we're making others wrong, instead of having a dialogue that says, yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I agree with this. And I'd like to add something. Shirzad Shamin, who wrote the book Positive Intelligence and developed the PQ program, which I became certified as a coach for, along with Maxwell Coaching and Southwestern Consulting, all fabulous organizations that are based in God, right? That there's a higher power. As Einstein said, a superior reasoning power that created this unimaginable universe, that understanding there's something much larger than ourselves, then why wouldn't you want to question your own mind, especially when it believes you are right to the point where you react and make others wrong or try to convince others? Think of all the people that are trying to convince others on social media. It's crazy, such a waste of time. Just accept other people's journeys and let what you can't control go. And what you can control, address it with the people who can do something about it. So instead of complaining about your boss and gossiping in the lunchroom, go to the boss. Instead of complaining about your spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend with friends and family, go to that person, have a conversation, go to your spouse, go to your mates. We don't do it. Humans love gossip. I mean, look at all the reality shows. Humans also love people that are less okay than we are. It's called the not okay theory. We love to see people struggling and fighting. We love drama. That's the acorn brain. If you spend a lot of time watching those shows, you probably have a lot of drama in your life. Maybe less than the people you're watching, which is their theory, right? You feel okay when you see all the people that are not okay. They're struggling more than you. It doesn't make it right or healthy. And I just like you to question it. I'm not suggesting that you do anything here. This is my journey. And my journey, quite frankly, is none of your business. And your journey is none of my business. To learn to appreciate all the different journeys, different like fingerprints. almost 8 billion, or maybe it's 8 billion people today inhabit the earth as different. Their lives are as different as fingerprints. Can you come to appreciate them? Can you stop complaining? Can you stop fighting against reality? After all, it's here. What reaches you was never meant to miss you. And or that everything works together for good. Let it go. It's all working together for good. That there is a superior reasoning power that created this existence. Maybe the race you were born in is perfect. It's for you to do something in. Maybe the family you were born in is perfect. It was designed to give you gifts. Maybe the jobs that you've been offered and the doors that have been opened were perfect for you until they closed. And they closed so that you could walk through another door, another new door. Maybe something better. But whether it's better or not, good or bad, that's your mind judging that. What if it just was? Neither good nor bad. I don't know. Might be good, might be bad. Often, because we can't see around the corner, when we look back, interestingly enough, we see the gifts, kind of like this. Well, if that happened, then this wouldn't have happened. If that didn't happen, then this wouldn't have happened. And if that didn't happen, then this didn't happen. I wouldn't be where I am today if those 3 things didn't happen, or maybe 10 things, or maybe 1,000 things. You know, the messages of the time and the messengers of each time were designed to fit within what would be acceptable for people to hear as much as possible. I mean, Christ challenged all the leaders of the time, but so did Abraham and Joshua and David and Joseph, Muhammad, and people today come and challenge. Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Mother Teresa. They came to challenge people. Rumi said, what's you are seeking is seeking you. Fascinating, right? That everything, same theory, that everything works together for good, that what you're seeking is seeking you. When you fight life, Eckhart Tolle says, when you fight life, life fights you. I have examples of these all in my book, Sage Advice. Here, I'll show you the book cover. In fact, you might enjoy it. Now, I mark it a lot because I use it and I refer to it. Even though I wrote it, I use it as a reference. Wisdom for Living from Throughout the Ages, right? And there's a number of pages, right? I mentioned Rosa Parks. Let me mention one of her quotes. You must never be fearful about what you are doing when it is right. Like, that's great advice. Each person must live their life as a model for others. I do believe we are here on planet Earth to live, grow up, and do what we can to make the world a better place for all people to enjoy freedom. She lived it. Let's pick someone else out. Deepak Chopra. He's got a great one here. That even when you think you have your life all mapped out, things happen that shape our destiny in ways you might never have imagined. How many of us have had things that have happened that you didn't imagine? Like me, right? On November 13th, 1 second I was fine. The next second I needed an ambulance. 5 days later, I flatlined. Do you think I could have imagined that? Not ahead of time. Some people think I'm imagining it today, but I had witnesses, 2 friends at the end of my bed. That certainly helped. Not me. It helps people that don't believe because they can't believe their own brain. How about this? In 121 to 180, imagine, Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your own mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Can you imagine? Accept the things to which fate binds you and love the people with whom fate brings you together, and do so with all your heart. He goes on to say, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question. What fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? He was talking about the mirror principle, that what we see in others, right? As Christ said, you can see the speck in someone else's eye, but you can't see the 2x4 in your own, the splinter in your own. I call it a log. Seek not the good in external things, seek it in yourselves. This was Epictetus, actually. Let me say that the right way. Epictetus. Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself. And so there's a lot of wisdom in this book. I'm not trying to sell the book. It is available on Amazon. If you go to Steve Lentini, author, here, Steve, this is how to spell my name, Steve Lentini, author, you'll see that book, stevelentiniauthor.com, and many others, all the books I've written. And so I don't write them to be a #1 New York Times bestseller. I write them if one person can get something from it. And I've received emails and messages from many people over the years that have said, thank you for writing it. Because all my books are about challenging common thought, prevailing thought, assumptions. And that's the work. Now, I'm not trying to convince you of it, because what I can suggest, though, is experiment with it. Challenging your own assumptions, where you see the world is flat. Challenge yourself. Imagine having limitless thinking instead of small-minded thinking. We can see it today in politics, right? We have two-party system, which I think is failing us, by the way. That's why I think we need at least a third party, but why not as many as baseball teams? Then we'd get over this divide in the country. But neither side is right. I'm an independent today because of that. Both sides need to question themselves. And it's funny, when one party gets in power for too long, they end up with an elitist view that they know better than everybody else. And then some of that elitism leaks down into prevailing thought that they know better. And then all of a sudden you have bureaucrats that are not elected passing regulations and laws to that align with their own personal beliefs. It's elitist because they believe they're right. What if all of us were wrong and we just had a dialogue that started with, hey, where are we wrong in this? What are we missing? How can we help the people we serve? That's a politician's job. Instead, we have political leaders in this country that start out broke and end up multimillionaires because they have inside information on stock tips. And that's okay too. Hopefully we'll vote for people that are willing to have a dialogue. I was thinking the other day, why not register to be a Democrat and suggest, hey, let's have a dialogue that'll come to a conclusion that'll help more people, the most people, not standing up and saying our way is the only way. And then I thought, well, then someday I'd have to change and become a Republican and suggest the same thing. I'm better off being an independent because I can suggest it at the same time to both parties. But you can see how small-minded and limited thinking both have. Very small-minded and fascinating. They model this behavior and then expect the general population to behave differently. They're shocked when the general population doesn't behave politely. Why would they? Their leaders are. When it comes to small-minded thinking, you think about the assumptions that we've made over the years, even when it comes to faith and religion, that maybe one religion is right. I can tell you the messages at the time from all the prophets were delivered to fit their societies at the time. And even then, don't forget, Christ came at a time where it was believed that certain traditions made you worthy of God's love, or the Creator's love, or the quantum field, the way particles assemble. It doesn't matter what you call it. It doesn't, at least not in my experience. In the 1600s, Baruch Spinoza wrote about that, the God of Spinoza, whom Einstein used to often. The message for today is, there was no mention of my sin, by the way, in my life review. Now, that's fascinating because Christ said that it's been said that Christ came to forgive our sins, that the Father sent him. How about if the Christ message was, there is no sin, there's life, live it, make mistakes, learn and grow. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have errors in judgment unless you try to live the perfect good little life. That's not going to help you either. There's no such thing as the goody two-shoes. I've got it right. I don't make any sin. That's just a sin right there. You're judging. According to sinners, there's no such thing as sin. There's mistakes. Did you learn to walk without falling? I doubt it. And how do you feel when you do good? The only thing mentioned in my life review was the good I had done, the lives I had touched, which is what we're here to do, is to overcome ourselves, serve others, help others, do good. And we leave here with nothing, so why not give it away while you're here? Which many very wealthy people are doing. They're in the process of doing, giving away a lot of their fortune. Wonderful. Right. You're not leaving with it. As far as I know, I didn't. I didn't take anything with me. There was no mention of my titles or books I had written or things I owned, houses, etc. No mention of what this brain in my head, the acorn brain. Here, I'll show you the acorn brain again, right? The acorn brain, what that thought was so important. None of it mattered. Here's an acorn, right? The acorn brain. A little creature came out of this one, a little worm. I brought it outside, said, here, live outside. But it's each of you to decide and experiment on your own with what your life is like by making others wrong, following the acorn's brain suggestion of being angry and giving that person a piece of your mind. Who cares what your mind says? You don't have to be right. You don't have to argue with anyone. You don't have to try to change anyone's mind. Appreciate where they are. Hey, I hear you. Interesting. How'd you come to that conclusion? Are you open to other thoughts? Are you open to other ideas? I hear you say this and I believe this is, I agree with that, or I believe in that, or that's good to hear, right? Because now you're giving people credit for at least 10% of what they're saying has to be right. No one's 100% wrong. It's up to you, though. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. Challenge your own thinking. Question the questioner. Osho wrote a book called Your Answers Questioned. I love that. I think that's the goal of life. As Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. People have been talking about this for thousands of years. It's up to you. Like I said, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I have a quote that is funny to me, and I say it from time to time because I believe that it still relates, right? All these years later, I want to find out when Cicero was born. He lived from 106 to 43 BC, and he said, politicians are not born, they're excreted. Now, fascinating. We're still over 2,000 years later, we're still electing people like that. Fascinating, right? So many people. Politicians get up and lie. You don't even know what the truth is anymore. And they bravely and brazenly lie. I can think of many in the last 10 years. Just brazen lies, wanting the population to get fanning the flames, right? And then we find out later that it's not true. And then even major parts of the media doing the same thing. Who cares about the truth? Who cares about the facts? We're just going to report this crap. Okay, as long as you know, right? You challenge your assumptions. Don't believe everything they say. In fact, unless you're Jim Jones's people, you might want to drink the Kool-Aid after this show is over. I don't have any Kool-Aid for you, and I don't recommend you follow anything or anyone blindly. I also wrote the book No BS Coaching. Wake up from the BS stories you tell yourself. That's where it starts. Dr. James Doty wrote the book Mind Magic, and he says, think of the subconscious this way: a file system and a bloodhound. Whatever you put in the file system, the bloodhound is going to look for evidence for it to prove you're right. By the way, without any evidence, it ignores evidence to the contrary. Picture the bloodhound. You give it a sweatshirt from someone or a t-shirt and say, smile, smell this. All right, now go find that guy or that gal. It does automatically rule out any other scent because it's looking for the one. It's the same for your subconscious. Whatever you put in that file system, your bloodhound, your brain is now looking for evidence to prove you're right. And that's the most powerful thing to overcome. Just put a pause in. When you notice your mind putting you on the path of being right, you might be. Odds are, parts of it you're not. Especially when you're assuming things about people or gossiping about people instead of bringing the complaint to someone who can do something about it, because that takes courage. But to gossip at the lunch table with people who can't do anything about it, whether it's coworkers or neighbors or friends, it's cowardly. It's wasted energy. Here's another experiment. Pay attention to low frequency energy, which you'll feel in your body, which gossip is. And when you react with anger, chances are you're going to feel low frequency energy within a short period of time. And you're going to go, oh yeah, boy, I got to say I'm sorry, or wish I hadn't done that. Now, let me tell you this about yourself. Give yourself grace. Remember to remind your brain it seemed like a good idea at the time and have a chuckle. That's what this life is for. God is never absent, by the way. Never. The goddess, the Buddha, the Brahma, the Abraham, the Muhammad, the Christ, whatever you call that creative power that made this unimaginable universe, the superior reasoning power, as Einstein used to say. Whatever created a universe, imagine it to be small-minded like you are and I am. Nothing that created this existence that physicists are still stymied over. How miraculous it is. They're even now looking at the idea of the multiverse theory. And there's many subsets of all of that they're working on. The brain theory, the bubble theory, the quilt theory. It's fascinating what the research they're doing. And we are still so far off. It's as if we're still sacrificing babies and beautiful princesses like during the Aztec and the Inca time. That's how far off we are. We have no idea of the miracle we live in. We're living in a miracle. And you can change your life. You can actually change your life by changing your assumptions and working on yourself. Forget other people. Forget other people. Their journey's none of your business. And notice where you react and who you react to, and look for, as Marcus Aurelius said, look for where you have the same thing. Or as Christ said, you can spot the speck in someone else's eye and you can't see the log in your own eye. It would make the whole world so much different. And this chaos and conflict is necessary so that we know we're alive. That's why God did it, the contrast. So we know we're alive. Now, you can take this kind of thinking, by the way, limitless thinking, to your job. You don't have to say that I found God. You don't have to search for God, by the way. God is never absent. The creative power that made a universe, you think for 1 second it's stopped paying attention to us? The whole thing would end, by the way. The whole thing would end. But we've got the hubris and the ego to think we're right after all. I think we're getting closer. We've got multiverses, I think. Yeah, prove it. You haven't yet. We still have people that believe the earth is flat and that we're in a hologram, which is okay too. Maybe they're right. I don't know. I don't care. What I know is I have work to do on myself, and that is not going to end anytime soon. It's a journey. I tell my coaching clients that if I ever tell you I found the way to manage this mind, to move permanently into limitless thinking, run away. If I tell you I found the way. And then check in with me in a few weeks. Here, now you're seeing the cat who's been roaming around, distracting things and having fun. Okay, any questions? I think that's enough for you to hear today because you're already roiling. You're upsetting. Your brain is upset enough. I'll give you something to read, not from me, but from Joseph Nguyen, is Don't Believe Everything You Think. It's a book, The Stoics' Guide to Life by Rasha Baraj. And certainly you can go to Amazon.com or SteveLentiniAuthor.com. Here's one of my books, No BS Coaching. Wake Up from the BS You Tell Yourself. Author.com. I have How to Train Your Mind, written by a dragon, right? It's How to Train Your Mind. And they're all short reads. I don't believe self-help books should be 300 pages. That's where the author's more impressed with themselves than they are what they're suggesting. Because other than that, get to it quickly. Einstein used to say, if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, you don't understand it yourself. I love that. Yeah, How to Train Your Mind, written by a dragon. By the way, I did that before the movie came out. I had no idea they were coming out. The movie was coming out with humans, right, instead of the animated version. And the idea just popped into my head one day as a cute title during a walk. 5 days later, I woke up with the idea on a Sunday. Maybe it was 6 days later. But anyway, I woke up at 3 a.m. with the whole book, and it was done. The next Friday, it was on Amazon. It's practical ideas on how to train your mind. And I proposed the good dragon, making the dragon a friend, as opposed to the dragon that fights life, the fire-breathing dragon, going to fight everybody. And Dr. Daniel Amen has some great work that he's done, suggesting naming the brain like I do. He calls his little Hermie, not the acorn brain. I have another name for it. I'll share it here, the little fucker, the voice in my head. And he also suggests that there's 13 dragons that we have, and he has a free assessment you can take to find out which dragon voices are running you. He suggests they're all negative. Then he says we all have ants, automatic negative thoughts. Now, would you live in a house filled with ants? Of course not. But you know how many ants we have in our brains? Automatic negative thoughts. We don't even question them. We believe them. And I still do believe some of them. Fewer and fewer, because I'm working on my mind every day, and it's every day. It's work, like going to the gym. I call it the neuro gym. It's especially important in business, Whether you take a higher reasoning power, a superior reasoning power with you every day or not, you can if you believe life is a gift and that whatever created this universe is never absent and that we live in a miracle. That would change you as a leader in your company. And this is the work I do. I do it with salespeople. I do it with leaders, questioning their mind and learning to be present and curious, not wanting to be right. You might be right, but just putting in that space to manage it is a great thing. Don't take my word for it. Try it. Now, if you want to reach out to me, here, I'll show you how to spell my name again. You email steve@stevelentini.com. steve@stevelentini.com. You can be a guest, by the way. I have some fascinating guests upcoming, and I'm going to be a guest on the Sparkling Entrepreneur podcast on December 29th, I believe. And I have another guest coming up on the 15th, which is Monday. So look out for some of the guests. They're fascinating guests, people that are challenging others' thinking, and that it's good news that it's showing up in more and more places, and with neuro researchers like Shirzad Chamine, like Dr. James Doty, like Joe Dispenza, like Dr. Daniel Amen, that are doing the work to show the benefits of reprogramming the mind and how it changes our reality. It's like you can jump your reality by stop the stuck thinking, believing your mind. Don't let your mind run you. Raina Maria Rilke called his mind the little hooligan. That's what he called his brain. And he would ask his clients, will you let the little hooligan run you or will you run it? Or his students at the time, it was the 1800s, George Ivanovich Gurdjieff called his voice the machine. And he used to ask the same question. Will you let the machine run you or will you run it? You are driving the bus. You choose in every moment what you're going to react to, what you're going to respond to, and how. People that come to me with complaints, it's okay, I let them. And then I say, okay, for everything and everyone you named, every they and every name you named, cross out they, cross out their name, put in your name. Because it's you. That's what it's happening for. The people that bug you the most are your teachers. If this really bothers you, I'm glad. I'm really glad. Start the experiment yourself. Okay. Steve at Steve Lentini. I'll show you one more time. Steve at stevelentini.com. Love to have you as a guest. You can challenge any of my ideas. And remember, I might just ask you, does that sound like small-minded thinking? I'm glad to help. Thank you.